The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavior loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. The nervous system manufactures a fake view of the world in order to protect itself from deeper existential realization and dissolution with its environment. This protective mechanism often happens in some sort of future goal projection. Like you want to be in a certain stage in your life in order to accept yourself. And as a consequence, you're going to invent reality models about the current state of things and how you relate to yourself in time and space, and also about future goals. And a common goal is for people to awaken or to become enlightened or find out that there is no self. All of these high-level spiritual ideas then become goals. And then the entire mind is always avoiding all real spiritual work for that goal, which is very ironic because the goal would be achieved if we were to do the spiritual work. And spiritual work sounds very magical or esoteric, but if I wanted to boil it down into the more like foundational part, it is really about looking at your own discomfort, looking at your own pain, and understanding how your mind functions and what the mind is lying about. And the most perverse lie is the lie of enlightenment. The lie of enlightenment is the idea that you can access a state of mind where everything is perfect forever, and you as a human are like always blissed out, and you'll never have to experience pain. And this doesn't work because you are a human being. You cannot never experience pain as a human being. I mean, maybe if technology becomes far enough that we can put something in our brains that stops most of our human pains, which, hey, I'm open to that. But you are not going to like meditate yourself into a state where you can never experience like a broken leg. This is not how it works. And it's an egoic fantasy, a reality manufactured by the mind in order to not do the feeling of the pain that you already carry inside of you. The bliss that comes from existential realization is real though. And it happens through the dissolution of the ego and the realization of interconnectivity between all things, which is usually experienced as very loving because your mind doesn't like scratch something that is very pure and simple. The idea that you can attain some sort of spiritual realization is very weird because on one hand, it is true. You can have an enlightening experience or an awakening experience. By the way, I have so far, as much as I can, avoided the word enlightenment, but I probably should, I will start using it more. And I have written an article on Substack about why this word is like very icky to me and what the meaning of the words or why I speak the way I speak is so important to me. And you can read the Substack article here. I also put the link in the description. The projection that happens when somebody comes and says, oh, I have awakened, or I have had an awakening experience, or I have removed the Buddhist fetters, or I am enlightened or semi-enlightened. The ego hears that and then looks at the person and tries to figure out, okay, so what, like, does this guy really know? Has this guy had a realization? Where is this guy located in their spiritual journey? And then all of this must be fantasy because you cannot know what is in the other person's head. And this attempt to kind of put a hierarchy between people and to see, okay, where is the level of realization between one and another is already ego, which is the entire irony of my ego architecture audit because that's exactly what I'm doing. But the ability to look at what is genuine in a person is really all that matters. Like you can scratch all of the spiritual jargon and even scratch most of the psychological jargon and then find out, is the person authentic? is the person presenting itself in a way that is true to himself? And a lot of it is like social intelligence. Like you just kind of can sense when somebody is speaking the truth because they have nothing to defend, or they're not using words in order to like smooch you into being likable or being liked. And at the same time, they're just speaking their own truth, and they're not trying to manipulate you into like looking only at what they want you to look at. And people usually can sense that, and if you can't, then you're probably prone to being manipulated. And but every human being is somewhat prone to being manipulated because people really like to hear the narrative they want to hear about themselves. So if somebody comes to you and just tells you what you want to hear, it's very difficult to be like, I don't think this guy is authentic. But having said all that, you do get like almost like a sixth sense of what is authentic about a person, and then you can always look for logical contradictions. If somebody views themselves to be very psychologically advanced, let's say, and then you ask some questions and then there are contradictions, you can very much recognize how do they interact with their own contradictions. Somebody who is defensive and says, no, there is no contradiction at all, like what are you talking about? Then you kind of feel that there's like an ego mechanism trying to defend something. And from there you see, okay, there's some reality that is being fabricated within this person that isn't congruent with mine. Because if you're truly 100% authentic, meaning you know yourself fully, you're completely in awareness of yourself, which by the way, I have a video called The Pursuit of Authenticity is Omniscience, where I also go deep into that. A person who is completely sovereign in their own mind will not need other people's validation. They might still be interested in what other people think, and like I myself like compliments, but you don't change very much from them because you already know who you are, independent of what other people say. This level of authenticity means that the reality model is very sovereign and it is also very open. So you are very certain about who you are and at the same time can listen to what other people have to say. Now, with all sort of ego, this isn't the case. And you can catch your own like ego friction when somebody tells you something you don't want to hear, or when you are trying to smooth out the parts of your mind that you don't accept about yourself, which is very, very easy and common to do. Because when you ask a question within words, then you can always say something that ignores what your subconscious is feeling. This is very easy to do because if your subconscious is feeling it, or even your unconscious, then for you it feels like it's not there. You're just going to say, no, I wasn't offended, because you don't feel offended. And then 2 days later, you remember what happened, and then you maybe feel like kind of uncomfortable about it. Stuff like this. The structuring of your own mind is always to prevent this incongruence in reality models. And you're always trying to pretend that everything has zero friction. And by that, you can fuel your mind into a sort of fantasy world. And then this fantasy world gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And now all of a sudden, enlightenment is the goal of your life. And your entire view of the world is completely meshed in this sort of fantasy world where something that isn't really that important matters a ton to you. Now, this gets into questions of meaning making, and does it really matter? Is it an authentic desire, or is it sort of should that I've programmed in my own mind from the external world or from sort of fantasy reality? And it is kind of difficult to discern on your own. And it's usually where people get stuck in some sort of spiritual ego, or I would say even a sort of psychological sort of superiority feeling. And it all requires humility and detachment from your worldviews. That's why deconstructing belief systems is one of the most foundational aspects of psychological inner work, because whatever you believe to be the case is like a friction point. And if this is contradicted, then this stuff starts to unravel. the disappointment that happens when you unravel something that you strongly believed in is not to be understated. And this can, for certain belief systems, completely deconstruct a person's sense of identity. If you believe with all your heart that when you finally find like a girlfriend or like a partner in life, that then all your problems will go away. And then this happens and you notice, okay, this actually didn't work. Or if you have a strong belief that the moment you get rich, you're going to finally be able to relax and everything is going to be fine. And then you are rich and wow, I am actually full of suffering and I cannot control my own behaviors anyway. Or if you believe that after your death, there is sort of heaven awaiting you and then you can transcend from humanity into the heaven realms. And then suddenly you, feel like, okay, maybe this is not really true and I'm just fantasizing about it so that I like can mitigate my death anxiety. Now what you're going to experience more death anxiety. Stuff like this. What is hard to accept is that sometimes you deconstruct the belief and underneath this belief, there's just really pain. And then it becomes very clear that you never actually cared about what is true. You didn't structure life for truth. You structured your mind for survival. It is survival of course, your biology, and really almost everything we do can be boiled down to some sort of survival. Not absolutely everything, but like the most ground layer of why we do what we do. And then also the psychological survival, which is this entire ego structure and the way you want to be perceived and what is authentic to you and how other people look at you. And the amount of tension wrapped up in these survival systems is so big that all the belief systems that we have, all these manufactured realities that we have, they feel so objectively real. Because if they weren't, then maybe we are in danger. Maybe something can threaten us. The path out of this sense of delusional self-view can only happen through genuine curiosity and open-mindedness. Like if you find within you the desire for truth to be more important than anything else, then it's probably a question of time until, you find yourself in contact with it, because the deconstruction of your own belief systems then just will likely happen anyway. And if you notice that, no, I actually prefer my own comfort over truth, then the question is, how far are you willing to go for your own comfort? Because it doesn't mean that you need to completely deconstruct your sense of identity until you're in a monk or an empty being or enlightened or whatever, but you want to deconstruct yourself until you can actually be content. Right? That's the real goal of all of this stuff. Is it just really to not suffer anymore. And the only way through this place where the suffering ceases to exist is by wanting to deconstruct everything that is creating you discomfort in the first place. And in a way, it forces you to confront yourself with the discomfort, because there's no other way you're going to deconstruct false belief systems if you're always just wanting to be comfortable. But if you're smart about it and you can look into the future and you see that your current way of life and your current way of thinking about the world isn't serving you, then it becomes a very natural move. Like, why wouldn't you want to be happier? Why wouldn't you want to let go of all this baggage that you carry in your head if it is dragging you down? The amount of drag that we carry around each other is very shocking when you see it for the first time. How the entirety of the human psyche is built on a foundation of illusion. This entire social mechanism, this entire belief in you as a human, as like the foundation of the universe, as the thing separating you from life and death, as like the ultimate separation and nothing matters beyond that. Like all of it is so deeply entrenched in the human psyche that once you have the awakening experience that reveals how much of it is a lie, it changes everything. Because now you stop projecting an imaginary future that you can never really access, and just start looking at what is immediately in front of you. And what is immediately in front of you is just so raw. Rawness is how I think reality is described very well. There's like nothing in between you and everything. And this is often what we run away from. It's just how raw and inevitable it all is. And then all of the illusions of the past also strip away, because whatever happened in the past is not present anymore. And the memory of what happened is also a manufactured reality to a huge extent. Like, maybe there's a part that you kind of have to recognize as true and maybe make amends in some way because you harmed somebody. And in this way, there's some truth that matters. But then also, like, think about how personalized it is. Think about all the harm that humans do on each other all the time, or that we do on animals all of the time. You don't feel guilty about what other people have done, right? You don't feel guilty about all of humanity. I mean, maybe if you deconstruct your mind towards the collective unconscious, but this is another topic. But you don't carry the burden of all humans in your own mind at the same time. It is just way too much burden. The burden that we often attribute to the entire humanity at the same time is actually our own lack of acceptance. And then we feel like we now are not worthy of forgiveness, and we need to apologize to some sort of force for even existing. But the real process of coming to terms with all of the delusion that is being fed in all aspects of society is just really coming to terms with the delusions that you fed to yourself. And then after all this psychological cleanup, you can look at all of this objectively and see like, this is how it is. This is how the world functions. It functions on lies, it functions on delusions, it functions on manipulation, it functions on people wanting to assert their own fantastic reality model and force it onto other people until what they force becomes true. But here you can find power, right? Because once you stop needing your projection of reality to become true, then now you are pretty much free to do what you want. Because it's not about reducing your own suffering anymore. It's not about becoming the hero of the world. It's not about anything, because you just exist like a mammal and you are fine just how you are. And now you can create, a spiritual YouTube channel that helps other people through their own pains, or create, a business for whatever your heart desires. And then ambition becomes like this pure force for greatness. And then fantasizing about the future where you are this like great artist or this great businessman, or where you have a ton of power to influence the world, is not egoic vanity anymore. You just want to create the world that you want to see, and that you believe is powerful and like available for you, or available for all of us. This means that all these ideas around manifesting are only false when they become fuel for the ego to distract itself from nature. But once this is brushed aside, you are freer than ever before to make your dreams come true. Because you deserve to. There's nobody who needs to give you the permission to make what you want happen. Only you can give the permission yourself. Only you can for yourself say, I'm worthy for $10 million, and then just go for it. If other people can do this, I can do as well. And if I can enjoy all the creation that I participate in every day, then there's absolutely zero problem. There's no conflict in wanting to be ambitious, wanting to like create a vision of a future that you enjoy. And moving towards it without this egoic narrative. You always want to be careful, of course, to not manufacture a sort of ego identity that needs to be successful in order to be worthy or to be okay. But usually, if you have seen through most of the illusions of life, then moving towards like a high-level goal like this probably will bring up some egoic conditionings. Like it will still keep transforming your relationship with money. It will keep transforming your relationship with wisdom and relationships and sex and money and all of this stuff. Like it's not gone from the psyche, and you likely still have an ego there that still wants to interact with this stuff. It is not all or nothing, but to a very large extent, as long as these things are not like the fuel for your own sense of worthiness, you are actually spiritually advancing, even creating a business, even doing stuff that a lot of people will tell you are sinful. Because this is what freedom is, to do what you want to do and be holistically authentic in the fact that this is what you want to do, and to not have to play low or pretend that you don't actually want this, or pretend that this is beneath you, or pretend that you have had some sort of realization, so therefore you don't need money, or you don't want to be successful. Like, these are still egoic narratives and manufactured realities that are not true. If you want to be rich and successful, then you want to be rich and successful. That's completely fine. The question is always, where is this coming from? And for most people in modern society, it is coming from a position of lack. But once you see what you are, what could you possibly lack?